Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for night three of our workshop centering the mental health of Black men and boys. So, whether it's your first night or your third night, we're so glad that you're here. Why don't you take a moment, drop in the chat. Are you joining us for the first night? Is this your second night or is this your third night? Shout out to any and everyone who's joining us for the third night in a row. Over the past two nights, we've laid the foundation together and we've talked about emotional fluency, about breaking through the silence, and about the power of support and connection. We've unpacked stories we've inherited and we begin writing new ones. And tonight we shift the lens again. So we're diving into something that's both current and complicated, the impact of online spaces and how we understand masculinity. I'm excited for tonight. I get to sit back, I get to take in, I get to learn because we are going to be joined by an active mind speaker, Brandon Bonds, who's going to be leading us. So especially for our young Black and brown men navigating these messages online while also navigating race, culture, lived experience offline can create tension, confusion, and even harm sometimes. So tonight we're going to pause, we're going to unpack, we're going to ask some questions. We're going to reflect and we're going to learn together. I'm very excited. If you've been with us for the past two nights, you've heard a lot of my voice, but I'm going to take a seat back and I get to introduce Brandon Bond. Brandon Bond is an LSA mental health and well-being project lead at the University of Michigan, where he spearheads strategic and systemic public mental health initiatives. Additionally, Brandon is a professional national mental health public speaker with Active Minds. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can book Brandon or bring Brandon into your community after tonight, where he delivers interactive talks and workshops on a range of critical topics. As a former Youth Advisory Council member for Active Minds in MTV Entertainment, Brandon contributed to the creation of Ask. We talked about Ask last night, Brandon, a knowledge, support, keep in touch, a national digital youth mental health peer support education campaign. He's also trained as an interfaith proto voice, facilitator, helping participants explore the influence of their religious and spiritual beliefs on their well-being via imagery. Brandon believes that the true mental health and well-being promotion is not possible without justice. Brandon, you all up in what we was talking about last night, my man. The notion has led to Brandon advocating for federal peer support policies through Mental Health America inaugural Youth Policy Accelerator. In his work is currently engaging in federal poverty, aviation, and global health policy advocacy as a results, all caps, fellow. On a local level, Brandon is co-developing a culturally responsive infrastructure for Packard Health Black Men and Boys Mental Health Ambassador Program. He also protects civil and human rights in his role as a mayoral appointed human rights commissioner for the city of Ann Arbor. Brandon, what don't you do, my man? We are so honored to have you. We are so excited that you took time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to turn it over to you. Towards the end, I'll come back for a question and answer with Brandon. So as you're taking notes, as you're reflecting, write down some questions that you have, and hopefully we'll get a chance to answer them a little bit later. But with that, Brandon, take it on, my man.
All right, amazing. So happy to be here with all of you. So thank you all for joining in today. I've been able to attend the last two sessions, so I know I have a lot to live up to. So I'm hoping that you all will join me in this journey. So as I get things kicked off, I wanted to start by explaining a little bit of how this topic came to be and why I feel that it's so important to myself and us as an audience as well. So as you heard from my bio, I'm always doing like a little bit of something. I'm always everywhere doing something. And despite being in all those spaces at the same time, I'm usually the only man, and especially the only Black man in many of those spaces as well too. So as I kind of went through those spaces, I just prompted me to ask the questions of where are men at? And specifically, where are Black men at? Where are we spending our time? Who are we going to for support? And as I started to look through that to try to find some answers for it, one of the things that I found was that we were meeting in a central place. However, that place wasn't in a physical space. It was more so of a digital one. So as we go through this session today, I'm hoping that we can explore some of the things that popped up as I started to answer some of those prompts and questions as well too. So in terms of what I'm hoping you all will get out of today's session, by the end of it, I'm hoping that you'll be able to define and recognize what red pill content in the manosphere is, including their core beliefs and tactics, understanding the psychological and social impact of red pill ideology on men's mental health and well-being, also analyzing or being able to analyze the role of mental health or social media algorithms in reinforcing red pill content and the understanding the impact it has on our digital well-being, and then also being able to critically evaluate why red pill ideology and content seems to be so appealing and drawing so many people in. And then lastly, we'll be able to explore some alternative healthy models of masculinity that promote well-being, leadership, and positive relationships for our Black men and boys population. So I wanted to make sure that we start off things with having the same language. I know this is a different type of content and language that is associated with this. So one thing that I would encourage you all to do first is to scan this QR code. It will take you to a red pill concepts and terms guide that I work to make, and it has different definitions, emoji decoders, acronym breakdowns, and many other things that are associated with this topic. I wanted to make sure that we all had the same language as we move forward. And I also encourage you all, just for some engagement pieces, drop in the chat once you enter the document what's one term or emoji pairing that you were unfamiliar with. And as you're doing that, I'm going to go through with some of these definitions as well to make sure that we're, again, on the same page as we move forward. So when it comes to red pill content, this refers to the digital content that is said to awaken men to the true reality of gender dynamics. It often portrays men as victims to modern gender equity and equality, and it promotes hypermasculinity. And we'll talk about what masculinity is as well too, in terms of toxic masculinity, and unpacking that a bit more as we go through. So with this, it also frames relationships as being more adversarial and transactional, and it also dismisses the existence of diverse gender identities and sexual orientations as well too. That's something that is very critical when it comes to talking about this topic as well. In terms of the manosphere, that is a wide collection of online communities that discuss issues related to men. They're not all, as we'll see, toxic. They can be really helpful for just building that online community with other men, which is really necessary for their social well being. However, with many of these communities online, they are typically around topics of self improvement, and oftentimes they are deeply rooted in misogyny and sometimes extremist spaces as well too. And again, we'll highlight some of those as we move forward. Some of the most prominent groups to know about are the men's rights activists, pickup artists. There's a group, MGTOW, which stands for Men Going Their Own Way, and there's also incels as well too. So you may have heard some of those words or groups before. They all have different pieces that are associated with what they focus on in terms of their conversations. And again, in the overview guide, it should give clear definitions of what each of those groups entail. We won't necessarily be going in depth with each of those groups right now, so I'll leave it there for now. And then when it comes to digital well-being, this is essentially just the state of maintaining a healthy relationship with technology and social media as well. And as we know, that is something that we are constantly being interacting with on a daily basis as well too, and it's something that we often leave out of the well-being wheel as well too. So again, look at the QR code, scan it. The link is in the chat as well too. Hopefully that will give you some great insight into this content as well. So, as we're thinking about, now that we have the common language, I wanted us to focus on how, and I guess how much this is integrated into our everyday life and society overall too. So, as we see from this slide, it is essentially everything. We see it in real life. We see it in dramatized examples of this red pill ideology. We see it in hit TV shows, podcasts, literature, our politics, um, streaming platforms, gaming, music, commentators, and so much more as well too. So we'll highlight some of these key red pill content creators as well as we move forward. But just wanted to let you all know that this is something that, again, we can't avoid. It's something that is approaching us from every single avenue possible as well too. So one thing I wanted to do, and hopefully we'll be able to hear it, I did have a video that I wanted to share with you all just to kind of give you some insight in case you have never seen Red Pill content, or in case you've never recognized that what you are viewing is Red Pill content. I wanted to show you that ahead of time. So please let me know in the chat if the volume works. We had some tech issues a little bit earlier, but hopefully it'll work.
Does a woman oppress you?
Her purity.
There's nothing else
gotcha.
going on
It's
there.
It's respect.
There's not like how passionate is she, or what experiences does she have? Nothing like that. It's just like
Well,
how pure is
I-
she? How untouched is she? Like
I
a
mean,
child.
That's it. That's what you
that's
care
not
about.
it, but it goes a long way for a man to be able to have those experiences with you instead of having to step in and change your mind. You know what I mean? So if you've been dealing with a man for
So you want to mind control a
no,
child?
it's not control. It's just having that shock factor. Just having that ability to say, I'm the one who gave her these prefaces. You know,
Pride
she got it from me.
situation.
It sounds like you're trying to find someone really
To,
young
like,
with no
shape them or
experience.
something,
That
to,
is
like-
because you're so insecure
Why
that
do-
someone else
why do-
might
why
have
do-
been beforehand there.
Adam, why would
That's
you
what it
want a
sounds
woman
like.
that had experience with other? Why,
Because you're
We change
insecure.
so
how would you feel,
dramatically.
Adam, if a woman came up to you and y'all got together and y'all getting ready to do, and she said, "Hey, this is my favorite position." Instead of, wouldn't it be better if
All right,
you?
well, all right, you want me to answer that?
Tell you that, or
I'm like, all right, let's give it in then. What do you mean?
An
Brother,
older
I
girl
don't
will
want
tell
a
you
virgin.
that.
Heard the saying soldier's eyes. So there's a saying that they use in Europe. They were talking about the men who went to World War II and they came back and there was something different about their eyes. Like all the bad things they seen was etched onto their eyes. And it's a real thing. If I ever have beef with someone, I can look him in the eyes and know if he's about it or not. You're not going to be able to imitate being a G. You have to go out there and you have to suffer as a man. You got to go through trauma to be a G as a man. Too many dudes out here are trying to imitate. That's what all this fucking shit is. You're talking about game. You're trying to be something you're not. The real game is to be the man. You're not going to ever have a look in your eyes until you've done it for real, my friend. I've been in 87 professional fights and far too many outside of the ring cage. So you got a lot of work to do before you can look like me.
First of all, I'm not a misogynist, because a misogynist is someone that puts down women. I exalt women to their rightful role.
But see-
Women are supposed to be women, not men. And every time somebody says that a woman is equal to a man and does what a man could do, and you're actually abusing and denigrating women. Women have a unique purpose, and they're special. They're fearfully and wonderfully made by God. I support women. So I'm not a misogynist. I don't put down. You're putting down women by saying women can be men. You're putting down women by saying transgenders can be women. No, they can never be women. Women are special, and no man can just convert and say I'm a woman today. You're putting down women by saying that.
All right, so that's Red Pill content, and the fact that that honestly is not even the worst that it can be, that's kind of considered tame as well too. That shows just how influential or impactful this content can be for ourselves as well too. So with this, I just wanted to kind of give some of that insight and show that with these examples, it can be seen in a lot of different ways, whether it's on podcasts or if it is kind of community conversations or just like a short motivational style video as well too. But you can see with the content that a lot of times is promoting isolation, emotional suppression, ideas of sexual purity or devaluing because of someone's sexual experience as well too. But it also highlights that people need to suffer or engage in violence to be a man or to experience manhood as well too. And then also just different pieces around restrictive gender roles and transphobia as well too. So all these different things are kind of being tied in and interwoven into this content and pushed out to people as well too. So just wanted to give that insight in case you have never seen it beforehand, or in case you've never realized that that's what you are seeing or other people are seeing as well too. And some of you may be thinking that like, who actually watches that? Like, clearly people can see right through it. The reality is that a lot of people don't actually see through it. So this is just giving a quick overview of some of the top red pill content creators and communities and groups. So again, ones that we talked about as we went through some of the definitions, but you can see that for many of the top people, influencers, platforms, that they have a massive following. So just alone, Andrew Tate is one of the biggest ones or influencers that we likely know of, and one of the people that's considered very, I guess, like originator of the content as well too, or popularizing it as well too. You've probably heard his name in a lot of different legal battles. That's a whole other conversation, but also important to recognize the types of people that are engaging in this content as well too. But you can see just alone for this one individual, over 2.5 million subscribers and 10.7 followers on X as well too. You can see it with some of the other formats or people as well too. Again, just how prevalent this is in our world. And what makes this even more challenging when we're thinking about how this information is dispersed out is that we are living in a world of clip culture. So even for people that don't subscribe to these people or are on these platforms, because clips are so easily able to be shared out, they can easily be shared in social media algorithms. Sometimes people will make opposition commentary as well and show these clips as well too. That's another introduction point. And sometimes it's included in compilation videos too. So it's really hard to avoid getting this content as well too. And also, as we're thinking about this, it's not all horrible and bad. So with the audience, even though there is a lot of people that are following these people or viewing this content, there's also a lot of people that are organizing and pushing back against this content as well too. And there's gotten to a point where some content creators have even been banned from certain platforms as well. So there are ways to work against this to prevent those creators from pushing this content out so that we don't have to endure the harm that can come from it. So in terms of thinking about it from a business standpoint, I also wanted to highlight that it's really hard to kind of get some of this content removed or creators removed because there's a strong business case for it for both the creators but also the industry as well too. And that also makes it a lot more difficult to have accountability in place as well. So when it comes to content creators, they're able to make hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars based off of their content and other things that they add on to it. So again, a lot of times this content is formed in a way of giving advice or mentorship to young men as well. And at times they kind of branch off of saying, well, you can listen to my podcast or you can take my course or we'll do coaching or bring me into your organization for a speaking engagement as well too. So that's the way that they continue to spread this information while also making profit off of it too. Additionally, as you saw from the content, it really doesn't take too much to make it. You don't need like any research. You just say whatever comes top of your mind. If you have a camera, time, and whatever stance you have, that's content right there. Again, it doesn't have to be fact checked either for this type of content either. And then from an industry standpoint, there is a reward that comes with controversy overall. So anytime someone is liking or disliking, resharing, or doing anything with this content, even if they don't approve of it, that gives it more attention. That brings it into the social media algorithm even more for some platforms. So in terms of controversy, it brings traction, engagement, and relevance as well too. So a lot of times we'll see on social media platforms misinformation or very kind of like salacious titles, rage baiting, or hate watching involved with it as well. Because again, that's some of the things that make the most money, even if it's not for the benefit of the viewers as well too. So as we continue talking about this topic in the coming slides, we'll see it, but I also wanted to highlight that red pill content creators and businesses, they essentially rely on people's fears, their anger, and their sadness and other challenges that they might be experiencing as well too, or supports that they're seeking out. So now I wanted to get more into the people aspect of this, of who's actually viewing this. So when we're thinking about age and location, this is primarily content that is viewed by people that are 18 to 35. However, there have been reports that people as young as being middle school age, all the way up to 45 and beyond, are also encountering or viewing this content as well too. In terms of location, it's spread throughout the world for the most part. So we really see huge audiences in the United States, Canada, UK, and Eastern Europe. Gender wise, it is primarily men, not really that surprising, but 90% of the audience is men, and the rest is actually women as well too. So it's important that we don't just think about men in the context of this conversation, but also there are women that will create red pill content as well. Typically their content will focus on hyper traditional femininity and being excessively submissive as well too. So kind of feeding into the language that we saw in some of those videos or clips as well. And then as we're thinking about racial breakdowns, it is primarily white men that consume this media. So around 60 to 75% of the audience is white. However, there have been reports that this content is having a growing presence and audience among Black males as well too. So we've seen some of this in the past couple of years with some red pill creators, such as the late Kevin Samuels. He was a huge red pill source within the Black community overall. And a lot of his content and content that Black males are engaging with are surrounding topics related to relationships and masculinity, but also there is some draw to conversations around financial independence and traditional gender roles too. And then we also see this within our Latino and Asian audience as well, where most of their connection to this content is based on cultural context or around family and masculinity as well too. And we can see from this the interest here that a lot of times people aren't seeking out this content, they're actually seeking out information around how to engage or develop some type of relationship with people. At times it can be how do they build up exercise routines or just dating strategies and other things of that nature too. Most people aren't going to this content because they are looking for male dominance and to put women and other groups down as well too, but they're actually looking for genuine advice and guidance and mentorship. So these content creators and platforms are essentially taking advantage of these groups as well. So again, want to break it down even further into thinking about men in particular for this. So this is just some data from the American College Health Association. And you can see from this data that it is very, very discouraging overall. And it's important to look into this because oftentimes we talk about men's mental health and well-being. It's not always shown in the best light in a way, or it's not always taken as seriously. But you can see from the data points here that there's a problem happening amongst men in general. And one thing I wanted to note with this as a data point is the final one of 35% would not consider seeking help from a mental health professional if a personal problem was really bothering them. So a lot of times in our conversations, we talk about getting someone professional help or a therapist or something of that nature. But in reality, there's going to be a lot of men that do not seek out that support, no matter what's going on in their life. So we'll talk about it later on in the presentation, but I really want to promote the idea of non-clinical approaches, and we'll see a couple examples of what that can look like for people as well too. And another thing I wanted to mention with this is that this is primarily focused on, or this is focused on college men. So I wanted to make that distinction in particular because there's a lot of different nuances that come with that when it comes to race and economic status and thinking about all the resources that are available for people that have access to college or universities or higher education in general too. So when we think about that, when we're thinking about these numbers, that should show you that it's even more critical that we really start to invest and take care of our men and boys as well too. But I did want to make sure that we focus specifically on Black men as well too. So if you attended the previous two sessions, you've heard some of this content beforehand, but I always think it's really important to reinforce how our history has informed our current thoughts and behaviors. So one of the first things I wanted to mention is in terms of diagnosis. So when we're thinking about the history of Black mental health and well-being, it's important that we go all the way back to the 1800s, where we find William Sweetser, and he used the term mental hygiene in 1843. So that's essentially kind of the start of the field of mental health. And then if we fast forward a little bit, we meet American physician Dr. Samuel Adolphus Cartwright. So two things that Dr. Cartwright was known for was two diagnoses that he created in relation to Black mental health and well-being. So the first one was called drapetomania. So this was characterized as an official psychological disorder that caused enslaved Blacks to run away from bondage before the Civil War. And to prevent this deviation and disrespectful act of enslaved people wanting freedom, the treatment and prevention strategies were to physically harm the enslaved people and to also engage in other dehumanizing activities as well too. And a lot of times the rationale for putting them in these positions was because it was the Almighty's will that the enslaved people be put into that level. So I just want that to sink in for people right now, of thinking about our desire for freedom, our desire for liberation, to be seen as human, was considered a psychological disorder officially. That's the start of our mental health and well-being journey as well. So when we think about current day, where there's mistrust or disconnect or all these other things that kind of push people away from mental health conversations, it's important to think about that. And then we also have dysthesia ethiopica as well too, which is a mental disorder that is characterized by exceptional laziness and being insensible to pain when being whipped, and essentially characterizing Black people as being stupid and destructive as well too. So again, if you think about the words that I'm saying and current events right now, you can see where that connection is happening as well too. Now, something I'll transition to, but I won't go as in depth with, is talking about experimentation as well. So there's also been a large history of experimentation on Black bodies as well too. And I highly recommend that you all check out the book Medical Apartheid: The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. This gives a very great but also horrific understanding of what our history is when it comes to our bodies and being experimented on as well. Now, another book I would recommend is Madness, Race, and Insanity in a Jim Crow Asylum. So this kind of goes to the topic around asylums, where many Black individuals were forcibly committed to asylums for many times no reason at all. And a lot of times this caused just irreversible harm. It separated people from families as well too. And we can see from the evolution of asylums that it has led to prisons, jails, juvenile detention centers, and things of that nature too. So that's also something important when we're thinking about where and how community shows up for people as well too, or how people and Black men have been separated from their community as well. I also want to talk about preservation. So when we're thinking about Black history and records and all of that, many times it has been erased. So we're trying to get a full picture of where we've been and what we've gone through, what could be supportive for us as well too. A lot of that stuff has been intentionally destroyed as well. So that makes it a lot harder to get a full picture of what we need to move forward, because we don't always know where we've been in the first place as well. However, there have been opportunities to preserve our history, our understanding of things as well too, through oral traditions and other things of that nature. And then I also wanted to really highlight the male aspect of this with talking about toxic masculinity. So this term originated in the 1980s, and it definitely existed much longer than the 1980s, but this is essentially the overamplification of values, attitudes, and behaviors that are associated with, I guess, the stereotypical male. So that could be being very strong or having a lack of emotion, being self-sufficient, being very dominant as well too. And overall, like when it comes to masculinity and femininity, neither one is a bad thing. However, when it comes to the over amplification of those, that's where we have issues that can come up from this as well too. And I wanted us to be a bit more critical when we're thinking about masculinity in general as well too. So when we're thinking about masculinity, at the root of it, it is trying to hang on to a sense of control, a sense of power. And I think that's something that the majority of people can relate to, of wanting to have some type of agency over their life, over decisions, over things that are happening to them as well too. However, when it comes to toxic masculinity, they work on, or people will exhibit toxic masculinity because they're trying to hold on to that control and that agency by any means necessary, even if it's at the detriment of other people as well too. So I want you to think about how we just talked about diagnosis and experimentation, asylums, history being removed. All those things are very critical pieces that remove any sense of power and control from someone's life. So a lot of times toxic masculinity can show up because of those different pieces. Again, it's not something that is justifiable, but it's helpful to think about it from a more critical standpoint as well too. And then lastly, I didn't want to end this on everything's horrible, but there's also some supports that have been helpful in terms of the Black male mental health and well-being community too. So we're thinking about different coping mechanisms or healing practices. A lot of times we see it in non-clinical approaches, whether that is through calling our family, thinking about our hair, thinking about our style, being in culturally specific locations or church or whatever else. There's a lot of different things that have been used to essentially help us gain and protect a sense of control and our humanity and dignity as well too. So I want to give some of that background, because as we're trying to connect this to Red Pill content, if you think about how people, and Black men in particular, have been lied to, they've been taken advantage of, separated from their families. There's been a lack of accountability for the trauma that's happened to them and their loved ones. And think about it from the standpoint of now this content is coming in that's essentially telling them that they know the truth of the world. They can help the person gain control, protection, and power, and also giving them a sense of community as well too with other people that are hurting just as much as they are. And then it also gives them a person to blame, whether that is women or immigrants or people in the LGBTQ plus population as well too. And a lot of times having all those different components, that can be a sense of something that is appealing to people because it gives them an answer to the pain that they are experiencing as well. But I didn't want to just think about it from the past context, but it's also important to think about how this is showing up in our present day too, especially when it comes to Red Pill content. So a lot of times in Red Pill content, you'll hear language around a high value man. And it's important that we think about what is the value of the Black male body in today's society. A lot of times the Black male body and mind is only degraded to if you are something or a source of entertainment for someone, if you are sexually appealing to someone, if you are an athlete or some type of artist or performer as well too. As long as the body is providing some source of entertainment to the greater population, then it seems like there is that's where the value is assigned. But it doesn't often come to mind of who is being celebrated for their intelligence, for their contributions to society, for their philanthropy or leadership or whatever else. We're often degraded to those different aspects of what's entertaining to people as well. And then as we're thinking about it from the standpoint of gender culture or queer phobia, that's also really important to think about of how we can address that within our community too. Of a lot of red pill content will again start blaming other genders or sexualities for the equity or equality that has made some progress on. We're still not there, but because of that push, there's often a sentiment in this content that because different genders or sexualities are being promoted, that means that the value of manhood and masculinity have been demoted as well too, which again is not true, but that's what the content is pushing out in those narratives as well. We also have to think about personal safety. This content is often promoting violence. We saw from the video clip of talking about the importance of men having to suffer to be a man and things of that nature, or to engage in a lot of fights or violence as well to be seen as masculine or man enough as well. And we can also see it with incarceration, of being disconnected from our communities, and thinking about Black male mental health providers. So a lot of times with this content, there's not many people that are educated on mental health and well-being in the first place that can counter the narratives that's coming from this content. A lot of times people with education or around this topic area, or that are kind of engaging in some type of healing process, they're also seen as being corny, or their education is seen as being a waste if it's not making them a lot of money as well too. So there's also that emphasis on that area too. So as we're thinking about this from the standpoint of some of the psychological effects that red pill content has, this is just a way to kind of synthesize it in a way. So it reinforces toxic masculinity. Again, the over amplification of stereotypical male traits as well. So when we're thinking about dominance, emotional suppression, misogyny, all of those different things is kind of consistently being reinforced within the population or the audience as well. It exacerbates mental health struggles as well too. So again, it will encourage isolation, unrealistic expectations, depression. There's even been some accounts where within these online communities as well, that sometimes they will not often, but sometimes they will push forward the narrative that they have to harm other people or harm themselves as well too, because they will never reach the level of manhood that is acceptable in society as well too. It has a impact on distorted worldview as well. So again, making everyone kind of the enemy as well too, to someone's control and sense of agency and manhood as well. And then also with these online communities, it puts them in an echo chamber where this is one of the main things that they're hearing. Also, as they start to engage in this content and start to practice some of the things that they're taught with this content and go out into the real world, yeah, they don't have the best response as well too, but it's because a lot of people don't recognize the pain that they're going through and what they're trying to essentially express or achieve or connect with. They end up kind of pushing them aside or kind of isolating them even further as well too, because in a way they are pushing harmful narratives forward. So it can be, that's not something people really want to be around. So that even leads to more isolation for those individuals as well too. So again, you can kind of see how it can be a cycle of get the content, practice it, you get rejected from it, and then you go back to a place where other people are being rejected, and you kind of go deeper and deeper into receiving that information. And at times for some, it can take itself offline as well too. So we see several different cases, unfortunately, where red pill content has been taken into the real world. So there's been reports of increased harassment of young school-age boys practicing sexist behavior as well too. There's been situations that are connected to mass violence as well. So these are just 3 scenarios here that you can look into further, but each and every one of them had connections to either red pill content, the manosphere, or something in relation to misogyny. But we can see from that it's really important that we don't just take this lightly, but it's something that we look into and think about prevention opportunities for as well. with social media, we see that it's created for social addiction as well too. So a lot of times it can be really difficult to separate from social media and this content. And there's also been reports on how young men in particular report excessive consumption of manosphere content too. And then this is also connected to extremist groups as well, whether that be the Proud Boys, the alt-right movement, and neo-reactionary circles as well. And it can range from having a different ideology around gender, race, masculinity, and also our political system or democracy as well. So there are a lot of different implications that can come from viewing this content and kind of consistently being bombarded with it as well too. But I don't want to leave you all on a sad, bad note. There are several things that we can do as well too. So I wanted us to talk about, with all this in mind, where do we go from here? So I just wanted to share like a little bit of data on what can happen when we invest more into social and spiritual well-being in particular. Again, thinking about this from a non-clinical approach. So with some of these data points, I wanted to highlight that around half of men said that they don't have someone that they can open up to about stress, and this can lead to silent suffering overall. However, for Black men in particular who feel connected to a community or a friend group, they are 60% more likely to stay physically and emotionally healthy. And spiritually, for Black adults who pray or meditate weekly, they are 30% less likely to report feeling a sense of hopelessness or depression as well. And also, among Black men with strong spiritual foundations, there's a 40% higher sense of purpose in life as well too, and that can help with motivation for long-term health as well. So in thinking about each dimension of well-being, there are several different pieces that can come from this in terms of thinking about how do we build community for our Black men and boys, and also how do we update our sense of what a Black man and a boy's purpose is in modern day life as well too. So those are conversations that are sometimes rare to have, but it's something that is necessary for the promotion of our Black men and boys population too. So these are just some things that I've been able to work on personally in terms of different interventions that I highly recommend you all look into. So first is the YB Men Project. So this was created by Dr. Daphne Watkins here at the University of Michigan in the School of Social Work. It's essentially a social media based intervention that will group together young Black men to have conversations around modern topics, but it kind of twists those to talk about mental health and well-being, their connections, their understanding of success, and things of that nature as well too. So it's still using that online platform, but it's instead of pushing forward these harmful narratives and misinformation and miseducation, it provides them with a space that they can connect with each other in a way that's more health promoting overall. Additionally, one project that I've found to be pretty successful and helpful for men of color is a integrative wellness pop-up barbershop that I did as a Active Minds Emerging Scholars Fellow. So that was actually my introduction to Active Minds. But with that intervention, I helped to essentially think about what are the spaces that are particular or important for Black men and boys, and how can we essentially build interventions around places that they are going to go no matter what. So if we build interventions around places that they are going to go, places that they want to go in the first place, then that can be helpful. Also, just thinking about some of the bare necessities of their well-being too. So with that, we were able to get licensed barbers to come in and paid them to offer free haircuts for our population. And then we worked on facilitating different conversations as well. So I talked about Red Pill content with them about a couple months ago. And then in the first session I did with them, we also ended up using modern examples around that time. It was around the time of the Chris Rock Will Smith incident. So we were able to talk about that, and then relate it to definitions of success, and also thinking about the role that our childhood trauma may have on us as emerging or growing adults as well too. Also, thinking about it from some of the work I do with a local health clinic here of building out a Black men and boys ambassador program as well too, to make sure that this is a community-led initiative, and thinking of how we can continue to show up for our Black men and boys in a way that is culturally responsive to them, and making sure that they have insight into the creation of these resources or of these programming opportunities, and even reaching into potential advocacy opportunities too. And then lastly, we have the Ask campaign. So I was able to help out with that as well too, with Active Minds and MTV. We talked about it in a couple other sessions, but there'll be a link in the chat as well that will talk about that campaign of giving people the fundamental skills to provide support for someone in need as well. So those are just some of the interventions that I've been able to support or contribute to. And I also wanted to highlight some other things that I haven't been able to work on, but I would love to see in the future for different cultural shifts and interventions that will be helpful for the promotion of mental health and well-being for our Black men and boys. So one of the first is for our interventions is thinking about having a campaign of what the modern man is. Overall, a lot of times red pill content focuses on the ideal man of the past that is dominant when people didn't have, or women and other historically disadvantaged groups didn't have rights as well too. So it's important that we start to push forward these narratives and images of what the modern man is and what it can be as well too. For some people, those traditional values and practices, that's still what they will want in modern times, but it's important that we expand the view of what that can look like to at least show them that there are alternative options and not just this is the one way to be a man as well. I think it's also important that as we're thinking about these digital spaces that we work to build in opportunities for collaborations with other streamers or content creators to engage in destigmatization as well. Our policy on a local, state, and federal level when it comes to anything technology, digital wide, our digital well-being wise as well too, is severely lacking. So I would also say that it's important that we mobilize around policy advocacy too. And in terms of some of the cultural shifts, I think it's really important that we continue to seek out mentorship from older Black men, but particularly those that are engaging in some form of a healing process as well too. Too many times we have mentors that haven't engaged in some form of healing process, and at times I honestly believe that having a harmful mentor can sometimes be just as worse or just as bad as not having a mentor at all. So we want to make sure that we're having someone that can give that insight from more of that health promotion mindset as well. It's also important that we work to reduce diminishing positive male role models as well too. A lot of times, again, we kind of see them as corny or weak or whatever else, or the nice guy or whatever else. And that also isn't something that's going to be appealing to people. So if we can shift away from that as much as possible, that's also something that can be helpful as we're thinking about our rhetoric or other potential campaigns too. And then also, I think this is probably one of the most important of extending empathy to conversations around men's mental health and well-being, and also our history of power. Like, I'm not at all unaware of the impact and the level of power and dominance that men have had forever. And it's important that we recognize that men are still hurting in this situation. Yes, there have been a power has not been utilized in a way that has been beneficial for many people. And it's important to recognize that just because that mistake has and is happening, it doesn't discredit the support that men also need as well too. So I think that's something else that's really important as we're thinking about cultural shifts. So I know that was a ton of information to throw at all of you, but I wanted to just highlight that we are facing a very critical moment right now. And it's really important that we understand or have a better understanding or evolved understanding of what our collective purpose is in the world, especially as young Black men, or just Black men and boys in general, or a larger society as well too. So as we come to a close, I wanted to just leave you all with the challenge of sharing what is your life's purpose statement as we're thinking about what do we want to see for ourselves, what do we want to see for each other in the future. I think that's something that once we can identify that for ourselves, it makes it a lot easier to move away from the content that we're being constantly exposed to as well. So as we leave, I want to share my purpose statement. So my purpose in life is to design humanity promoting experiences by weaving together populations, our passions, and pursuits. Hopefully you can see from this content that I'm doing that as much as I can, but it's going to take all of us together to move forward with this work as well. So I will wrap it up there and just say, if you would like to stay connected, please do. I have my LinkedIn here. You can email me. And then if you are interested in any speaking engagements, there's a QR code there as well. Hopefully we have some time for any questions that you all have, but you can also message me directly on LinkedIn or email me, and I'm happy to follow up with you as well once we get there. But yeah, thank you all so much. And yeah, looking forward to what comes next for us.
Amazing job. The content has my brain just going in so many different directions. One, as a Black man, two, as a father. If you got questions, please drop your questions for Brandon. We want to close out by taking some questions. Brandon, I was taking notes, and I gotta just say kudos to you because you actually answered some of the questions that were coming up for me, man. I want to highlight it. Like, one of the ones that I had when I was thinking about, like, the Red Pill content, highlights this idea that, masculinity is under attack. Like, how would you respond to that, especially in the context of like Black mental health, and that rethinking the modern man, redefining that and allowing that to be at the forefront of our conversations, like, answer that question for me. So I really appreciate that. I'm curious, what motivated you to focus on the intersection of Red Pill ideology and Black men mental health? Was it personal experience? Is it research? Is it community observation? What led you to this content?
Yeah, so I feel like there's quite a few things. So one is, again, just thinking about like where men are at in general, like where are they spending their time? Because I felt like that was a conversation that I often heard, usually from other women, of just saying like, "You're the only man." Like, why is that? Like, I honestly don't know. I don't think I'm doing anything ridiculously like special or anything like that. I think I'm doing everyday people stuff, but I think that was part of it, just trying to identify where people are going. I think we also have to acknowledge just like the impact that technology is having on our mental health and well-being as well too. So that was something of interest, as well as thinking about what's coming up as we're seeing changes with AI and evolutions of that, and talks of using that as therapeutic modalities or whatever else. So I think all of that, and then seeing some of this content just play out in our political atmosphere as well too. So similar things that I would hear from people in some political areas, I'll just say, I would also see that content kind of like almost verbatim in some of this online content as well. So for me, I started to see how this isn't just, again, confined to our phones, confined to this platform, but it has real life implications too. I also would say that it comes from an intersection of various identities that I have, but also the people that I care about. I think when it comes to this content, that the removal or reduction or whatever else that can kind of put it at bay, I think it's also helpful for the people that and communities that I care about as well too, because this is, again, it's been used as a justification to harm or have some type of violence for women, our queer population, and many other groups as well too. And I think the last thing I would say is that I also ended up getting certain like red pill content that was sent to me as well too. Like, as I'm going through social media, I was like, oh my God, am I the problem? Like, is this me? Like, did I it's my algorithms telling me something about myself that I don't know. So I also wanted to do that introspection for myself and identify again like how this is being sent out to other people, because I am trying my best to do the work to avoid misogyny and all these other forms of discrimination. So I wanted to look into this further as well too, because I can only imagine what other people are being sent as well too with this content.
No, man, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the other things that I was thinking about just as a parent is just being aware that it exists,
Yeah.
and thinking about how do I build up that filter, and then what do I do if we do access it? How do we respond to it? Because I think a lot of it, that toxic masculinity, that idea of hyper masculinity, does connect to that idea of what a lot of Black men and boys are taught in terms of suppressing emotion and what it means to really be a man. I'm curious, for those who may be using that content to fill a void, like what are some of the other healthier ways we can seek to combat that issue?
Yes, I would say in particular for parents or guardians, one thing I would encourage is to watch TV together. Watch particular TV shows that have red pill content built into it. So not like a promotion for those shows or whatever, but I recently watched Adolescence and The Better Sister, and I had that on my slides, but it had content or scenes that involved red pill content. So I think being able to watch that together, see the impact that it has on the characters, but then bring that conversation to the real world of like, what do you think about this? Or is this actually real? Have you ever seen anything like that as well too? It just opens up that conversation. So it's not coming out of left field. It's not kind of going based off of conversations from last night. It's not accusatory or anything of that nature, but it's approaching the conversation with a bit of framing and a sense of curiosity as well too. So I think that's one thing that can be really helpful for the parent guardian to child relationship. And when it comes to just in general for Black men and boys, one of the biggest things I think can be helpful is just to expand opportunities in our understanding of what can be therapeutic to Black men and boys as well too. So it doesn't just have to be therapy. It can be related to sports. It can be through cooking or whatever else. So I think if we're able to embed intentional reflection into various activities, that can just be something that's helpful for the promotion of our mental health and well-being. And also just seeing that, again, masculinity, like everyone has masculinity, everyone has femininity, or certain pieces where they're on the spectrum of both of those. And it's not a bad thing for either of those. It's just how you want to express that as well. So I think part of it will also be some confidence building. And that's also, again, why I talk about other demographic groups as well too, because we have to essentially work to promote and build up other populations outside of being Black and male to really combat this. So it's all intersecting at the same time. So it's kind of hard to build like one strategy or one intervention because there's so many different pieces that move along with it too.
No, that makes total sense, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate the wisdom. I appreciate the experience and the expertise and the perspective that you brought to us tonight. Such a phenomenal way to close out our 3-night experience, our countdown to Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth tomorrow, or if you're watching this video, happy previous Juneteenth. But Brandon, so appreciate you. And again, you can stay in touch with Brandon. You can book Brandon. Brandon is a part of our Active Mind Speakers Bureau. So this content, other topics, other speakers are available. We want you to stay connected with our organization. For those of you who are attending for the first night, please go back, watch the other recordings. The night 1 recording, the night 2 recording will all be available on YouTube and on our website. For those of you that are interacting with us for the first time, I just want you to know that these workshops have been brought to you by Active Minds over the last 3 nights. Active Minds is the largest nonprofit in the United States, mobilizing youth and young adults to transform mental health norms across society. For over 20 years, we've equipped the next generation of peer mental health advocates through a variety of programs like our Speakers Bureau, like our Active Minds Chapter Network. Brandon mentioned our Ask, campaign and framework. We have a plethora of other different ways that you, your family, your youth in your life can get involved with our organization. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us. Shout out to anybody who joined us all 3 nights. We appreciate you. We see you. We do this for you. We want to continue to do this. Please fill out that survey if you did not. We want your feedback. We want to know what you think. We want to get better. And we will close out tonight like we have every night. Angie can say it better than I can, but we so appreciate you. This will not be the last time that we get together to talk about the mental health of Black men, Black boys, and many others. We all have mental health, so it's a topic that we want to continue to come back to. But good evening. Fill out that survey. Have a great night. Thank you again, Brandon.